Oh, you're killing me, Donnie. You're killing me, brother. Happy Friday. It is great to be here on KCMO, wrapping up the week with you. For many of you, maybe you're back from a little spring break. We've been here all week, though, on 95.7 FM and on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Stream us as you get your Friday morning off and running. So, by now, you know, if not, you're hearing this for the first time, that a couple of days ago, the House of Representatives voted on a wildly bipartisan basis to ban TikTok, unless the company divests itself from the Chinese Communist Party. So this now heads to the Senate. We'll see what happens there. I don't have a lot of confidence that the Senate is going to actually do anything about this, but hey, I am happy to be surprised. I don't think deep down Joe Biden wants to sign this bill banning TikTok. He needs every single young, naive, clueless voter under the age of 25 he can get his hands on. Because a lot of them are waking up. A lot of them are starting to see the light. And they're coming to shows like this. They're consuming content like ours. And Joe Biden doesn't want that. He does not want common sense coming into the conversation for Gen Zers and younger millennials. He just doesn't want it. But they're waking up. So he doesn't want to ban TikTok because then they're just going to blame Joe for that because they don't know how Congress actually works. So anyway, that being said, this is potentially a huge win for the American people, banning TikTok unless it divests itself of China and basically gets out of business with the Chinese Communist Party. And that's the parent company of TikTok, which is called ByteDance. This would be good for American national security. It would be, frankly, good for parents in this country who, yes, will have to monitor other apps, but getting rid of TikTok would be a great place to start. But Donald Trump put this out on his Truth Social page yesterday, and it read as follows. TikTok is less of a danger to the USA than Meta. That's the parent company of Facebook, which is a true enemy of the people, he writes. They spend $500 million against me and our great Republican Party, lockboxes and all, and should never have been allowed to do that. TikTok didn't. Like crooked Joe Biden, Facebook is a great threat to democracy, and it will only get bigger and stronger if TikTok is taken out. Do them both, ? And restrict the money allowed to be spent on politics and lockboxes by Meta and Facebook. Well, there's a lot to digest there from Big D. And just a quick sidebar, some of you get upset when I call him Donnie. Relax. It's all in good fun. Like I got a couple angry emails about it. We're just having a good time here. I'm not here, Mr. President. I mean, we're not stiff tightwads here. We're just talking about the news, having a good time. Of course, I respect the office and the presidency. So just pump the brakes on that. But anyway, TikTok, which is in part owned by the Chinese Communist Party, is more dangerous than Facebook. Did Mark Zuckerberg spend a tremendous amount of money 4 years ago on the 2020 election? He did. And by the way, he paid somewhat of a price for that. And he has said thus far he's not going to do that in 2024. Now, I'm not sitting here taking Mark Zuckerberg at his word, but there was a lot of blowback on Facebook. And the general consensus was Facebook went too far. And Mark Zuckerberg personally, by the way, a lot of that was in a personal capacity, not Facebook, went too far. And that he is probably going to be staying out of that business in 2024. And that would be a good thing. But I am not willing to hand the country to China to settle a personal feud with Mark Zuckerberg. And by the way, I'm not really concerned about Meta getting bigger if TikTok were to be banned. I'm not. There's a lot of big tech companies out there. There's the Magnificent Seven, as they're dubbed, and that would be Apple, that would be Meta, that would be Amazon, that would be Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla. I mean, heck, Elon Musk already owns one of the biggest social media platforms on the planet now, and formerly Twitter, now X. And if TikTok were to go away in the U.S., Yeah, I think for a little bit in the short term, Meta would do well because of Facebook and Instagram. But I also think there would be more competition from the Alphabets, the Amazons, the Apples, the Microsofts of the world. Who knows what they might develop to become the next TikTok? So it's very short-term thinking to be like, oh, Facebook's going to benefit, and I don't like Facebook, so we should keep TikTok. No. We should not allow potentially the Chinese Communist Party to have access to 170 million Americans and their data to get back at Mark Zuckerberg. And it's amazing, like, there's been a total 180 on this by some people. I remember a time when Vivek Ramaswamy was ragging on Nikki Haley for her kid having a TikTok. And now Vivek Ramaswamy, who is as swampy as they come and has absolutely no moral compass, is now suddenly like, oh, this plan to ban TikTok isn't good because the problem is social media at large. And we should have a ban for, young people and social media usage because it's highly addictive. By the way, I've been advocating for that for years. We should treat all social media like we do smoking and drinking. Your brain can't handle it until a certain age. I believe that. But some people in Trump's orbit are now acting like TikTok isn't all that bad. And why might that be? Well, there's this guy, his name is Jeff Yass, who owns a 15% stake in ByteDance, the Chinese parent company of TikTok. And according to a report yesterday, Donald Trump is considering tapping hedge fund manager Jeff Yass to serve as his Treasury Secretary if he wins the presidency in November. Bloomberg first reported the news. Jeff Yass has also been a big donor to Donald Trump's campaign. And now magically there's this 180 in Trump's orbit on what to do about TikTok. Is this bill perfect? I'm not going to pretend that it is. And I know there's a fear from some of you that they could do this to Twitter after they do this to TikTok, and they could claim hate speech and all these other things from Elon Musk. And I understand somewhat of a slippery slope on this, but it's very different to say, well, we don't like what Elon Musk says, so we're banning TikTok, or we're banning X, to what we're talking about right now when it comes to TikTok. It is two completely different things. I don't change how I feel, and I'm not changing how I feel about 2024. But as I said the other day, the only thing Donald Trump should wake up and talk about is the fact that people are feeling the pinch on the economy, immigration's a mess, and poll after poll after poll shows him leading Joe Biden on the key issues that matter. If he doesn't think the TikTok bill is a good one, okay, I mean, that's absolutely his prerogative, and I'm open to making it better. There's no doubt about it. But an ABC poll that came out earlier this week shows that Donald Trump has a double-digit edge over Joe Biden when it comes to the trust of the American people on the economy, inflation, crime, and immigration. That's all I'm talking about every day between now and November 5th. That's it. 913-408-7957. You won't find me on TikTok. Sorry. I got Instagram. You can follow me there. I'm on X. I'm on Facebook. I'm in all those places. You can interact with me every day outside of the 4 hours we're on the air. But you won't find me creating a TikTok anytime soon. And to that I say, good riddance. Man, this just gets more interesting by the day and more dramatic by the day. The 2.5 weeks we have left until April 2nd, they are going to be a doozy in this town. Happy Friday. It is great to be here on KCMO. And Frank White has now got himself in the thick of this thing, as he has for a very long time, by the way. But now it's next level. Frank White, the Jackson County executive, has sent a letter to Clark Hunt and to John Sherman, the owner of the Chiefs and the Royals, respectively, asking them for $1 million.
This is Michael Jackson in Thriller video eating popcorn.
Yeah.
Gift right now.
Yes.
I'm just sitting here picking popcorn.
Oh, that's a great meme usage. That's right. So Frank White sends this email this letter saying, I'm reaching out regarding the upcoming election for a new sales tax initiative that has the potential to significantly benefit the Chiefs and the Royals, with projections indicating over $2 billion in generated revenue for your organizations. As the steward of Jackson County's fiscal health and community welfare, that wasn't even the funny part.
Sorry. No, that him saying he's the steward for all that. No.
Oh, no, that's funny. I am faced with the immediate concern of covering the $1 million cost associated with conducting this unplanned special election, an expenditure not accounted for in our fiscal year 2024. This unforeseen expense necessitates consideration of drawing from our emergency reserves, a decision that poses a significant dilemma given our community to safeguarding the county's financial stability. I'm respectfully asking the Chiefs and the Royals to cover the cost of the upcoming special election. This request is underscored by a keen understanding of the financial implications made in the spirit of the longstanding partnership, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Frank White sent a letter to the team saying, give us $1 million to cover the cost of your April 2nd election. And the teams nicely, more or less, told Frank White and the county to pound sand. That's the best way to put it. But here's the weird part. And listen, I'm not here to take Frank White's side on much. You guys understand how critical I've been of him in this property tax fiasco and what's gone on here in this county over the last almost year now in the wake of those assessments. Is it last minute? Yes. Is Frank White clearly not a fan of what the teams are trying to do here? Absolutely. Does he feel like he's being strong-armed in this thing? Sure. Is it political? No doubt about it. That being said, does he have a point? I think he does.
He's had a point the last two times when he was trying to be, against the election in the first place, right?
Yes.
Right?
He thought it was happening too
we
quickly.
don't know what we're getting. What are we buying? Well, I agree with that in principle.
Yes. He's actually had
kind of don't like the messenger, but the message is clear.
Yes.
And the last two times, as you're pointing out.
As somebody said, and I shared this with Mark and John last night on our text group, the trolls against Frank White are pretty funny. One guy sent to him, I no longer I'm no longer upset by the fact that Harold Reynolds beat you out for that gold glove all those years ago. Ouch.
That's funny.
But Frank White has had some decent points here down the stretch of this upcoming vote to extend or continue a 3/8 cent sales tax for the Chiefs and the Royals. One, he's brought up the point of we didn't know what we were voting on until both teams announced what they were going to do. We didn't have that information until the last few weeks. And then he brings up this point about $1 million for the teams to help, basically fund what's going to be on the ballot coming up here. And he says, in part, we do not have the money without dipping into our emergency reserves. So it's this weird place where Frank White, who is not a beloved figure anymore in this county, and he may just have an axe to grind with the Royals. This may be personal and petty politics for him as much as anything else. That being said, he might actually have a point despite all that, including those caveats. Frank White might have a point.
Talk about a bombshell.
I know. That's exactly how I feel. But you know what? I got to give the guy a little bit of credit.
I'll say in general for the point, but specifically I'm now questioning what's going on there at the assessor's office. You've fleeced the county residents for the last couple of property tax assessments. We had some COVID money that I haven't seen the bar graphs or pie charts on where that money went.
Yeah, where is any of that?
This crying poor thing I'm questioning.
Well, yes, I absolutely questioning.
In principle, I agree with him, but questioning the rest of it.
Yeah, where's the damn money? And I do not want to hear... And this is where Frank may have a point here, but I don't want to hear about him being fiscally responsible. Not with the way he's handled the assessor's office, the fact that nobody has paid the price for the horrible assessments that many of you in Jackson County, by the way, are still dealing with, has sent your property taxes to the moon, and has also, let's not forget, increased your insurance. that is something that I didn't think a lot about until many of you started emailing me in the last bunch of weeks saying, look at my insurance bill. My homeowner's insurance skyrocketed because of this poor assessment, and now I'm sitting here with my hands in the air being like, what do I do now? 913-408-7957. That's our text line, and that's also our studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio. On the text line, Pete, isn't there going to be other stuff on the ballot? Not for Jackson County. There are municipal things on the ballot, right? You may have school boards and things like that to vote on. But the only thing that Jackson County has is this tax. Your city may have other things, but no, the only thing that Jackson County's got is this tax for the Chiefs and the Royals. 913-408-7957. Jim's out east. What's up, Jim? Good morning.
Legislators that put this on the ballot knowing that it would cost them money?
Can you say that again, please? Sorry, it cut out.
Wasn't it the legislators that put this on the ballot knowing that they would have to spend the money to do that?
Yes, they actually overrode Frank White's veto to put this on the ballot. You're right.
So then that goes back against them, not the Royals and the Chiefs.
So you're saying Frank should be upset with his own legislature?
Correct.
Yeah.
Knowing that they were going to be spending the money.
Knowing that they were going to need to spend the money the minute they put this on the ballot.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. He's certainly not shy when it comes to ripping members of his own legislature as well. Like, guys like Manny Abarca. Talk about trying to pick the lesser of two evils. Do I go with Manny Abarca? Do I go with Frank White? I mean, what do I do? Who's the tallest midget? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It really is slim pickings in Jackson County. I mean, think about the leadership you got. From the legislature to the executive to the prosecutor. Jackson County, I love you. But you got to get this county squared away here, starting this fall with a decent prosecutor. It has been too long of electing too many morons. There's a couple of good ones. Sean Smith is going to be here at 8 o'clock. He's on the Jackson County legislature. He'll be here on KCMO 95.7 FM. But, man, it is slim pickings right now when it comes to reasonably elected leaders in Jackson County, sad to say.
I hope we didn't spend too much money trying to get rid of statues and changing names.
Oh, yeah.
Out of our budgets.
We wouldn't want to do that, right? Spend our time trying to get rid of Andrew Jackson's statue and make sure there's nice little plaques outside of Andrew Jackson's statue if he stays up there that talk about, his real history. That's an excellent point. 913-408-7957 is our text line, is our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Pete, Frank White conveniently waited until after the teams dumped another $1 million on ads. Well, maybe he did. Maybe Frank White is realizing the team is feeling the pinch here. They thought this was going to pass overwhelmingly. They're realizing it's not going to pass overwhelmingly. They just dumped another $1 million into ads for the yes side. And now they're like, let's squeeze them where we can. Let's also ask for another $1 million to cover the election costs. And I'll note this too. Someone in media was telling me that some of the sports guys in town are saying that this is going to pass 65-35. I mean, listen, I say this as someone who has made some bad election predictions. All right? I'm the guy that did a naked lap for a bad election prediction 2 years ago. I'm not going to do a naked lap again. My naked lap days are over. I've tortured Mark enough following me around with a cell phone doing a naked lap around corporate woods. But I will say this. There is no way in hell this thing passes 65-35. If it passes, it is going to be something like 53-47, if that. 913-408-7957. Jay Ashcroft is running for governor of Missouri. He announced a new plan yesterday for the state of Missouri. He'll be here just after 7 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour with you on 95.7 FM and the KCMO Talk Radio app. Pete, I was going to vote, this is on the text line, yes, until the Chiefs president threw out there the threat that the Chiefs could move. We love Chiefs Kingdom. We're family. but give us money or we're out. What a jackwagon. Have a good weekend. You know, I don't think that Mark Donovan came off all that well when earlier this week he took to the podium during this press conference at Union Station, and he did basically say, listen, the reality is if this doesn't pass, we will have to look at other options. That was not the way to play this thing. You got a community that supported you, for well over 50 years at this point. And, the relationship is very strong. And the reality is this vote is much more helpful to the Royals than it is to the Chiefs. And even Brooks Sherman, who's the COO of the Royals, he was not someone who was out there kind of saying, well, we're going to leave town. It was Mark Donovan who took a tougher stance. Now, I reached out to Mark Donovan yesterday. I'm trying to get him on the show. I mentioned to you yesterday that John Sherman is scheduled to come on the show sometime in the next week, the owner of the Royals. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. I'll, of course, tell you when it happens or when it's going to happen here on KCMO. Stay tuned to our social media channels. That way you know first. But I also wanted to get on Mark Donovan because the theme continues to be from the team that this is no new taxes. And the analogy I keep using is really a simple one. If you and I agreed for me to give you $100 a month for 24 months, and then as we were approaching that 24-month mark, you said to me, hey, I need another $100 a month for the next 36 months. And I'm like, no. We agreed to a 24-month payment plan here. And you said, well, I'm not increasing how much you're paying me. It's just a longer period of time. It's not a new tax. You don't owe me more money. Well, no, technically I do owe you more money because I thought we were done after, 24 months at $100 a month. And you're telling me now you need it for 36 months. So it is more money. No. But the monthly payment is the same. I don't care if the monthly payment's the same. You're asking me for more money. So as someone else just put on the text line as well, Pete, I'm afraid that the sports talk folks are right about it passing 65 to 35 because the low information voter is doing nothing but looking at those ads and going, well, I can't say no to Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. See, I understand the low information voter. I understand that is obviously prevalent across American society. But there has been such a groundswell against this in a way that I didn't expect at the grassroots level that I think the low information voter is even opening up his and her eyes to what this really is about, which is why I think this vote is going to be razor thin.
Former Mayor Sly James came on the show and expressed what was different than other times this time.
He did. Yeah, we had Sly on the show earlier this week, and he even alluded to it here when, he made it clear that there is a much more populist movement in this country on the left and the right that isn't as keen on giving billions of taxpayer dollars to billionaire sports owners.
I do think a lot of it has to do with the political environment. It's a much more populist engagement right now than it used to be. That's certainly one thing about it. I think the change is a little more radical than it was. Then it was keep both of the stadiums there and renovate. Now it's renovate one and remove the other and build anew.
That was Sly James, the former mayor, on this show earlier in the week. And, Sly is someone who's in favor of this. He is a proponent of the yes side. But he also admits the political environment is much different right now than it was back in 2006 when this town or this county did vote yes on that 3/8 sales tax. It was also a much less controversial deal where it was just, hey, let's upgrade the stadiums. But now it's let's move the Royals downtown, and the Chiefs, led by Mark Donovan, already kind of throwing out these veiled threats of like, well, we're going to have to look somewhere else. That's just our reality. Really? Reality of what? I don't see that being the case. On the text line, Pete, it's BS anyway. Mark Donovan can't move the Chiefs without Clark Hunt's approval, and that ain't happening. I don't see it all that likely either. I don't. Clark Hunt's made it very clear that, obviously that stadium means a lot to his family It meant everything to his father. I mean, he's talked publicly about that. But in the end, of course, money talks. Do I think Mark Donovan's jumping the gun a little bit here to try to squeeze the taxpayer? I think so. But it might work. You know, enough people might say, we don't want to lose the Chiefs. I got to vote yes. Maybe those people are out there. It's entirely possible. Now, in a more universally loved note when it comes to the Chiefs, how about Hollywood Brown coming to town? Woo! My goodness. So Marquise Brown is joining the Chiefs on a 1-year, $11 million deal. This guy, I watched him a lot in college. He went to Oklahoma. I haven't really watched him a lot in the NFL. But he's kind of Tyreek Hill-esque. Little guy, super fast, better than McCole Hardman, and a great pickup for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mark, are you fired up about this in there, my man?
Oh, yeah. He was one of my top 3 wide receiver targets for the Chiefs in the free agency. So.
Was he really?
Yeah.
So you're lit, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the low information guy. I came in and said, Mark, help me out. Make me feel better about this. I don't know.
Well, I haven't followed his NFL career a lot, but I remember watching him at OU since I worked down there for a while and still watch a lot of the Oklahoma football games. And he was a stud. He was outstanding in college.
The last couple of years have been a little down because Kyler Murray got hurt, so he hasn't had any good quarterback throwing to him, but he was decent. He had a 1,000-yard season with the Ravens, had 7 touchdowns, I think, there one season. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's back when they were running Lamar Jackson mostly. So
that's right. He started off.
Was kind of held down, and even then he got a foul.
He started off with the Ravens, and then he ended up going to the Cardinals. What, the last couple of years? Is that where?
Yep.
Okay.
He can't hold the Cardinals against any NFL player's resume.
Yeah.
You can't hold that against him.
You can't. All right. Well, and by the way, he shared this tweet. Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown, shared a screenshot of a text that he had with Andy Reid. And Andy Reid texted him saying, Hollywood, think red today. KC red with diamonds. And then he dropped a little wink emoji. Did you guys ever project Andy Reid to be a wink emoji guy to other men?
I didn't think that he would be a wink emoji guy, but then John reminded me that he does say nuggies in a commercial. So
the nuggies thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Chicken nuggies.
You're right. If you're a nuggies guy, you're probably a wink emoji
That's what
guy.
I was thinking.
There you go. And Andy was down at T-Mobile yesterday with BYU gear on. So he's all fired up. He's living the dream right now.
Big red decked out in blue, huh?
He's got Marquise Brown. He's hanging out at T-Mobile watching his BYU Cougars. And they got smoked yesterday, by the way. Woo! Boy. The media has attacked Aaron Rodgers more in the last 48 hours than they've attacked Joe Biden in the last 48 years. Think about that. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the New York Jets. And a New York Times report dropped earlier this week saying that, he may be interested in RFK's vice presidential nod, or RFK may be interested in Aaron Rodgers for his VP slot. Of course, RFK is running as an independent in this election cycle. He was on this show a bunch of weeks ago when he was sliding through Missouri, trying to get himself on all 50 state ballots. And in the wake of that news, it is amazing what has come out about Aaron Rodgers. CNN dropped this report 2 nights ago that said Aaron Rodgers has shared false Sandy Hook conspiracy theories in private conversations. Of course, that's the just terrible tragedy from 2012, where you had 20 children and 6 adults killed by a gunman at Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut. So this came from CNN, and they cited Pamela Brown, who was covering the Kentucky Derby for CNN back in 2013, and she says that she was introduced to Aaron Rodgers, then with the Packers, at a post-Derby party. And hearing that she was a journalist with CNN, Rodgers began attacking the news media for covering up important stories. And he claimed, per Pamela Brown, that Sandy Hook was actually an inside job, and the media was ignoring it. And then there was another anonymous report from CNN, an anonymous person, who also claimed that they had heard Aaron Rodgers claim Sandy Hook never happened. All those children never existed. They were all actors. So you have one CNN reporter on the record who doesn't have any evidence to back it up outside of her word from 11 years ago now. And then also someone who is completely anonymous who is claiming Aaron Rodgers said these things. Once again, it's a he said, she said at this point. That's all it is. And I'm sorry, but most people are not going to take a random journalist on a story that they just brought up from 10 years ago for their word. And nor should they. Never mind a CNN one. Sorry, it's just that's the reality.
Fake news.
So what do we have on Aaron Rodgers? Well, the only thing that we have on Aaron Rodgers is this comment from shortly after the tragedy at Sandy Hook, when he went on ESPN radio in Milwaukee and said this about Sandy Hook. And here's the tape from a TV station there in Milwaukee from 10 years ago, 12 years ago now.
But from lawmakers to celebrities, the whole country really is talking about the people and what happened in Newtown.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers getting in on that as well today. He shares what he hopes will come from this tragedy.
I hope that we can learn from this and look for the signs more and not ever have something like this happen and keep this on our minds, because these are things that affect all of us directly or indirectly, and this needs to be something that we learn from.
Now, you might say that, oh, he's just saying that because, well, he was, talking to media publicly. I don't know, maybe. I don't know what's in Aaron Rodgers' heart. But I'll tell you right now, would I sit here and call the guy a Sandy Hook conspiracy theorist when I have him on the record saying what every normal person was saying at that time? And every person should be saying in the wake of that tragedy? Or would I take an anonymous CNN report from 12 years later that just magically comes out after it's announced or reported that RFK Jr. is looking at Aaron Rodgers as a potential VP pick? And you and I both know CNN has skin in the game here, right? CNN is very much interested in making sure Joe Biden gets reelected. And if their belief is that an RFK presidency or an RFK bid, better way to put it, helps Joe or hurts Joe more than it helps him, then they are very much invested potentially in going down this road and in making this up. Now, do I have proof they made it up? No, I don't have proof they made it up. But you know what? If you're going to say that about somebody, and that's a terrible thing to say about someone, that they're a Sandy Hook conspiracy theorist, you better have something to back it up beyond your word. That's not journalism. Especially when I've got audio of the guy on the record being like, oh, this is terrible, this is tragic, I wish this didn't happen. It's a shame this happened. Like, if I have that audio and you're going to tell me that he's told you something completely different, it'd be nice if you had something, just a kernel of evidence to back it up. Or the other anonymous person who also claimed that Aaron Rodgers was a Sandy Hook conspiracy theorist. But they don't have that. So what am I supposed to believe? What are you supposed to believe? Well, I'm sure as heck not believing a random report from CNN. Are you? In a case like this? It tells me they're actually scared of a guy like RFK. And not that I'm a big RFK guy. I'm really not. He's been on this show. He was on the show a few weeks ago when he came through town. I'm not Mr. RFK Jr. by any stretch of the imagination. A little bit of an oddball, to say the least. But the way the media has gone after Aaron Rodgers, with more attacks in 48 hours than our own president has gotten in 48 years, is very telling. And it suggests to me that they have real fear over what an RFK candidacy that's halfway legitimate would do to their boy Joe. And Aaron Rodgers did say something publicly about this. And the way that Jake Tapper at CNN covered it was a complete and utter lie. Let's take a listen to Mark Donovan. He is the president of the Chiefs. He has been the face in many ways of the yes vote on behalf of the team, trying to get this thing done. He did a press conference earlier in the week at Union Station with Brooke Sherman, the COO of the Royals. And then on top of that, of course, he has also done some other media. Not a ton. I reached out to Mark yesterday trying to get him on the show. But he did do an interview with Kevin Holmes, KSHB, Woke 41. Of course, they are the TV partner of the Chiefs when it comes to airing the preseason games and the official pregame show and all those things. So I get why they got the interview. But I want to play for you this clip and what Kevin Holmes had to ask Mark Donovan and how Mark Donovan ended up responding.
On the drive into work today, I'm listening to news radio, and they were like,
by the way, I don't know. I bumped into Kevin here in the hallways. Maybe he was listening to you on KCMO, the callers, listening to what you had to say. Anyway, let's start that again.
On the drive into work today, I'm listening to news radio, and there were like 2 or 3 callers back to back to back. They talked about my property taxes just went up exponentially, and now the Royals and Chiefs want me to foot the bill or help foot the bill on the stadium that I have no ownership in. What would you say to these callers, these residents, these fans?
Yeah. That's a very good question, by the way, by Kevin Holmes. I continue to get more and more impressed by some of the people I'm hearing from at 41. So I may have to drop the Woke 41 moniker pretty soon. But anyway, let's roll the tape and hear the answer from Mark Donovan to that question.
Yeah, the important point there is this is not a new tax. This is the same 3 years that's come out of the sales tax since the beginning. And that's a really important point. We are not asking for anything new. In fact, we're giving back. Our ballot language is confusing. It is, just because of the way ordinances work, the way tax language works. It's very simple. Vote yes, we extend the existing tax, and we get to keep this great building.
All right. Vote yes, and we get to keep this great building. And, of course, he does hammer home the point of this is not a new tax. Now, there are many different analogies you can use to equate what we're talking about here with this 3/8 cent sales tax to what exactly is going on with the teams. If somebody says to you, hey, can I get a 2-year loan, $100 a month, I'll pay you back down the road. Okay, sure. As you approach the 2-year mark, that person says, hey, can we extend this loan for $100 a month for another 3 years? And you say, yeah, but I don't know, maybe I got to pay you another $100 a month. Is that fair? That's more money out of my pocket. We agreed on a 2-year deal. Yeah, but it's still $100 a month. I mean, relax. It's $100 a month. What are you complaining about, champ? It's not a new loan. We're just continuing it. Yeah, but it's $100 a month I didn't account for that now you're asking me for. That's not a new tax. Well, yes, it is. So you heard 3 things there from Mark Donovan. It's not a new tax. It's not anything new. And it's confusing ballot language. Well, I don't know Mark Donovan. I've heard, he's a pleasant guy and a good person to deal with. And, hopefully we'll get to talk to him here in the next couple of weeks or so. I think that would be great for us, for the show, for you, the Jackson County voter. But I would dig a little bit deeper on that in a way that maybe Kevin Holmes could not or was not able to. And that's the beauty of radio. You can do more in-depth stuff oftentimes than what you get on TV. No offense to my TV friends, but that's just a reality of what we do here in this format.
We can do 10 minutes on this topic or another 10 and make it 20, right? But you got to do 60, 3 minutes, stuff like that, 60 seconds, 3 minutes on TV. It's packages.
It's just packages. Yeah. Bing, bang, boom. But we can just let it rip for 10, 15 minutes and, continue a normal person conversation and not slice it and dice it into little sound bites. So I would say, okay, if it's not anything new, then why are we voting on it? I mean, clearly it's something new. The whole purpose of voting on it is that it's something new, right? That you go to the polls because you're voting on something that is new. So you can't tell me or try to convince me that it's nothing new when by the very definition, it is something new. That's why we have to go vote on it. And the confusing ballot language. I don't like when politicians do this, and I don't think it's an attractive trait when anybody does this, where they basically say, and I'm paraphrasing here, I know you're too stupid to understand what's actually being voted on here, but just vote yes because we're telling you to. And because, well, you like the Chiefs, right? You like Arrowhead Stadium, right? You vote yes. I'm not telling you to vote no. As Sean Smith said earlier in the hour, there are very good reasons to vote yes, and there are very good reasons to vote no. You will get to decide that as the Jackson County voter. But what I will do is when people on both sides of this say things that I agree with or I disagree with, I'm going to bring it up. And I've heard Mark Donovan say a couple of times here this week, he mentioned it in the press conference earlier in the week as well, that, the ballot language is really confusing. Don't assume or make the insinuation that the Jackson County voter is too dumb to understand the ballot language. Just promote why yes is the way to go. And I'm not convinced that the not a new tax thing is the best play. 913-408-7957. Sometimes people who are like really good at something don't know how to teach it. They can't coach it, right? Like,
absolutely.
They're so talented, they can't explain to a regular person or someone with less skills than them how to do what they do really well.
That is a foible in many industries where you take the best person in a position and say, you're the manager.
Yeah. But
now,
they're
wait
actually,
a minute. They're good for themselves.
Yes.
George Brad can't tell me how to hit. He can just do it.
Yes.
Right.
That's a great example. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was an awful head coach. He had a chance there with the Phoenix Coyotes. He couldn't do anything. Isaiah Thomas comes to mind. Really great basketball player, Hall of Famer. Not a very good coach. Heck, I think Ted Williams was a manager at one point, greatest hitter in baseball.
You're not zeroing in locally on a former second baseman or anything.
No.
No, okay. I didn't know if we were going there.
No, I'm not making a political analogy with Frank White.
Okay.
What I'm getting at here is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is obviously a master politician. He created a political movement as a guy who had zero experience in politics, as a guy who was a real estate magnate turned entertainer, businessman, and became the president of the United States. And if there was an election today, I think he would beat Joe Biden and once again be the president of the United States. But just like great athletes who don't know how to coach, Donald Trump is a great politician, whether you love him or you hate him, who does not know how to pick candidates. He whiffed big time in 22 on multiple candidates. Dr. Oz, terrible choice. Guy didn't even live in Pennsylvania. Could not connect with the working class voter of Pennsylvania. And now you've got a guy without a brain in John Fetterman in there. He picks Kerry Lake in Arizona. Terrible candidate. Did an awful job trying to sway McCain Republicans in that state and ended up losing her bid to be the next governor of Arizona. And, the list could go on from there. So now there's a primary coming up on Tuesday, and there's possibility that Donald Trump's pick is going to come up short come later this year. And it's a key location where you don't want to lose a Republican voter or a Republican seat, and that's in Ohio. Republicans are eager to regain the Senate majority, of course, this year, and Ohio offers a prime opportunity to pick up a critical seat. But the guy who's in the lead right now is a guy named Bernie Moreno. He may emerge with the Republican nomination. He vaulted into the top tier of contenders with a coveted endorsement from Donald Trump. Well, now he's got some issues here. He's confronting questions about the existence of a 2008 profile seeking, quote, men for one-on-one sex on a casual sexual encounter website called Adult Friend Finder. A caption reads in a photo profile under the username Nardo19672. What could that be in reference to? Do I even want to know, or should I stop asking questions? All right, I'll leave it there. Nardo19672. Hi, looking for young guys to have fun with while traveling. This is per an Associated Press review of records made public through a massive and well-publicized data breach of the website. Records also show the profile was last accessed about 6 hours after it was created. So clearly someone who didn't use it for all that long, it was there for 6 hours, and then it was gone. Well, on Thursday night, last night, 2 days after the AP first asked Moreno's campaign about the account, the candidate's lawyer said a former intern created the account as a prank. The lawyer provided a statement from the intern, Dan Rickey, who said he created the account as part of a juvenile prank. He said, quote, I am thoroughly embarrassed by an aborted prank I pulled on my friend and former boss, Bernie Moreno, nearly 2 decades ago. The AP could not independently confirm Rickey's statement, and he didn't immediately respond to messages left for him on multiple phone numbers listed for him. He donated $6,600 to Moreno's campaign last year, according to campaign finance records. Moreno's attorney, Charles Harder, insisted Moreno had nothing to do with the Adult Friend Finder account. So, listen, once again, just like anything else, the Associated Press is filled with hacks, but obviously this account is out there. And it's at least tied to this GOP frontrunner in Ohio, Bernie Moreno. So the question is, could this hurt him? If they're able to basically just say, hey, this account was accessed for a few hours, there was not a lot of action or traction on this account, and there's some evidence to suggest it may have been a prank that never went anywhere, okay, fine. But all I would ask before Trump does some of these endorsements, can we do a little more digging on some of these candidates, right? Like Herschel Walker, another disastrous candidate that Donald Trump picked. You can be a great politician and you can have the pulse of the people, just like you can be an outstanding baseball player, an outstanding basketball player. But if you can't coach it and you can't teach it, that's fine. Just stay out of that arena and just do you, my man. You're doing great as you.
Just like he endorsed Eric in the Missouri Senate race, right?
Yes. It was just Eric. It wasn't Eric Greitens. It wasn't Eric Schmidt. It was just Eric.
Trump into the windup. There's a changeup.
Yes. Give me more changeups. Just say, hey, I'll endorse whoever the nominee is. Yeah. And I don't really put this on him. It's not up to Donald Trump to really do the background and do the deep digging on people. Like, that's up to his people to do that. But he's got to get better people at the very least. Donnie has got to get better people to vet these folks. Not that Bernie Moreno still might not be the best guy, but at least know that this stuff is out there, have a plan for it, because let's be honest, if someone's digging it up, if the Associated Press is able to dig it up, and the Associated Press is a shell of what it used to be, then it probably was not that hard to find for somebody. The AP is not, and no media outlet, old school media outlet is what it used to be when it comes to the amount of resources they've got. So I'm sure somebody tipped them off. They found it relatively easily, and they were able to now spin this thing into potentially a major story ahead of Tuesday's primary. Whether or not it has a big outcome in November remains to be seen. But Trump's got to get better people around him who are vetting these folks, who are seeking his approval and seeking his endorsement. Because the biggest ones have, for the most part, colossally bombed. Like, yes, he's endorsed Mark Alford, but Mark Alford was going to win. Like, once he got the nomination, that was game, set, match. It wasn't really a big deal. I mean, it was, but you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the U.S. Senate race in Missouri where the endorsement came the day of the primary and he endorsed Eric when there were two Erics in the race. This stuff in Ohio is way too valuable and way too important to the future of the country to not know whether or not a guy's got an account on Adult Friend Finder where he's looking to, hook up with random people. So just, as we head down the home stretch here, the next 7-8 months, just my 2 cents as we roll through the election season on KCMO.
Look out for Nardo.
Yeah, look out for Nardo 19672. I don't even want to know what the numbers mean. Nardo. I mean, that just... Now it's going to be stuck in my head all day.
How many Nardos are already on the side?
Yeah. What's next? Nardo 19670. Nope. Nardo 19671 taken. Nardo 19672 available. It's open. It's all yours. What are we up to now? Nardo, 2,872. Unbelievable.